In the dead of night, when villages sleep and border fences fade into darkness, something moves silently above the fields. No headlights, no footsteps, no smugglers crossing rivers or climbing barbed wire, just a faint buzzing in the sky. At first, farmers thought it was insects. Soldiers thought it was equipment malfunction. Villagers thought it was imagination. But it wasn't. It was the sound of a new kind of cartel. A cartel that doesn't use boats, doesn't use tunnels, doesn't even use people at the border. Instead, it uses machines. This is the true story of how opium traffickers turned drones into flying drug mules, how law enforcement uncovered an invisible pipeline stretching across borders, and how a centuries-old drug trade entered its most dangerous phase yet. This is the story of the drone-based opium smuggling ring. For decades, drug trafficking followed predictable paths. Smugglers crossed borders on foot. They hid narcotics in trucks, boats, suitcases, livestock, even inside the human body. Border patrols adapted. Checkpoints multiplied. Surveillance increased. Walls rose. Fences thickened. And arrests followed. By the late 2010s, traditional smuggling routes had become risky, expensive, and unreliable. Every route was watched. Every crossing had eyes. For traffickers dealing in opium and heroin, products that originate largely from the poppy fields of South Asia, the pressure was intense. A single failed shipment could cost millions. A single arrest could expose entire networks. So traffickers did what organized crime has always done when faced with resistance. They evolved. Drones were never meant for crime. They were designed for photography, for agriculture, for recreation. Small, cheap, easy to operate, and almost impossible to track at low altitude. What criminals saw was opportunity. Unlike humans, drones don't panic. They don't talk. They don't leave fingerprints. They don't get tired. A drone doesn't care about fences, rivers, or patrols. It flies over them. At first, authorities notice small anomalies. Packages appearing in fields with no footprints. Drugs turning up far from known smuggling corridors. No vehicles. No suspects. Then came reports of drones flying at night near border regions. Low, fast, unregistered. By the time police looked up, they were gone. To understand the significance of this case, you must understand opium. Opium is not just a drug. It is the root. From opium comes morphine. From morphine comes heroin. From heroin comes addiction, violence, and death. Opium has funded wars, collapsed communities, built criminal empires. And despite decades of enforcement, demand has never disappeared. Where there is demand, there is supply. And where there is supply, someone will always find a way to move it. The investigation didn't begin with a dramatic raid. It began with a mistake. A drone malfunctioned. Late one night, in a rural area far from major cities, a drone crashed into farmland. Inside its payload compartment was something unexpected. Wrapped tightly, sealed carefully, pure opium. No pilot nearby. No vehicle tracks. No witnesses. Just a crashed machine and a mystery. Law enforcement realized immediately this was not recreational drone use. This was logistics. Investigators began tracing patterns, crash locations, recovery points, GPS interference zones. They discovered something chilling. The drones weren't random. They followed precise flight paths, timed launches, pre-programmed drop zones. This wasn't amateur smuggling. This was a system. Each drone carried small but valuable loads, enough to minimize losses if intercepted, but frequent enough to move massive quantities over time. Death by 1,000 deliveries. Despite the technology, humans were still involved. Someone had to source the opium, package it, program the drones, retrieve the drops, distribute the product, launder the money. Police began tracking low-level couriers who showed sudden unexplained income. Farmers paid to find packages. Middlemen using encrypted messaging apps. Cash transactions with no paper trail. Slowly, a picture emerged. A cross-border network using technology to erase borders. Law enforcement faced a nightmare scenario. Traditional border security was useless. You can stop a person. You can inspect a vehicle. You can search luggage. But how do you stop the sky? Radar systems weren't calibrated for small drones. Thermal cameras struggled with low heat signatures. Radio signals were encrypted and hopped frequencies. Every advantage favored the smugglers. Until the authorities changed tactics. Instead of chasing drones, investigators studied behavior. They analyzed launch times, weather patterns, lunar cycles, GPS spoofing attempts. They noticed something strange. Most flights occurred during specific wind conditions. Why? Because wind saved battery power. Smugglers were optimizing flight efficiency. That insight changed everything. Police began predicting launch windows. Waiting, watching, listening. On a night with perfect wind conditions, authorities deployed anti-drone units, signal jammers, tracking radar, ground teams. When the drone crossed the invisible line, they took control. The machine descended slowly, helplessly, like a captured bird. Inside, opium, packaged, marked. For the first time, police didn't just seize drugs. They seized data, flight logs, coordinates, programming signatures, and those signatures led to people. Once suspects were in custody, the story unraveled fast. Confessions revealed, training camps for drone operators, workshops modifying drones for heavy payloads, international financing, couriers posing as delivery workers, connections to overseas buyers. This wasn't a local operation. This was global supply chain crime. Experts later admitted something disturbing. If this ring hadn't been stopped, drone-based trafficking could have become standard practice. Cheap, efficient, hard to trace. A future where drugs rain from the sky, silently, constantly, invisibly. Courtrooms struggled to catch up. Laws written for humans now had to address machines. Who is responsible when a drone commits a crime? The programmer? The owner? The launcher? This case forced legal systems to confront a future they weren't ready for. This wasn't just about opium. It was about how crime adapts faster than regulation. Drones today, AI tomorrow, autonomous delivery next. The battlefield between law enforcement and organized crime has moved into the digital sky. Authorities now invest millions into anti-drone weapons, sky surveillance, AI tracking systems. But criminals are watching too, and adapting. Once, borders were lines on maps. Now, borders are volumes of air. And somewhere, right now, someone is testing a new drone. Quieter one, faster one, a smarter one. The war on drugs didn't move underground. It moved upward, into the sky.